Hello and welcome to the Forever Grind. This is our second episode. I am one of your hosts, Matthew Tecchia, and along with me is the lovely.
Angela Brown.
This is technically the third podcast, so to speak, but it's the second that anyone will ever hear because it's really important when you record a podcast to record the audio. I hear.
It's also a good idea not to stream it.
Oh, look, that doesn't bother me. We accidentally hit the stream as well as the record button, but nobody could
Oh,
hear it anyway. So, you
oh my
know,
God. Early technical hiccups, that's okay. This
yeah,
is how it all works.
that's right. That's right. You live and you learn.
Mm.
If you didn't tune in for the previous podcast, what are we all about?
I guess we just like talking about video games. We're a married couple with a son, and I guess it's just video games from our perspective, from people who've been around the industry for a long time or been playing games for a long time, and um, yeah, and bullshit like that.
Yes, yes, we like to talk and we like to talk about video games. So hopefully you'll enjoy listening to us. And we uh, we do have some forms of feedback that you can take if you listen to this and you want to get back to us or make a suggestion on perhaps something we should talk about, or you've got a comment. Uh, you can find me online. I have a Twitch channel which I'll put down below. It is twitch.tv/Lyriel, which is Lyriell. And you can find me there or on Instagram, which is Matt MATT underscore Tecchio TECCHIO. And Angela is contactable on.
Instagram and Twitch, Pons Institute. You can find me at either of those places there. I may get into streaming again soon.
Maybe.
Maybe. We'll see.
Yep. Okay. And so last time we covered a lot of ground about why we play video games and things like that.
Mm.
So maybe this time we'll just jump into what have you been playing? If you've got something to talk about, what have you been playing, Ange?
Okay, so what have I been playing? I've been playing a pretty wild little oddball JRPG called The Legend of Heroes Trails from Zero. I have to stop and say that properly because the title's crazy. And then I think that's going to be a segment we do on a later podcast is video games with fucking ridiculous titles. And this
Mm.
is one. It's not the craziest. It's not the craziest. But yeah, Trails from Zero is indeed the title. Um, and it's part of a long-running series in Japan. Um, it's part of like okay, it's like a big, large, like world building exercise they did when they made these RPGs. This one is part of a trilogy. I'm playing the first one. It came out on Switch about I don't know towards the end of 2022, and I finally picked it up and I thought, oh, this looks odd. Let's give it a crack. And yeah, it's odd. I think it's a PSP port. And it's a pretty straight port. You can tell because when you go to save your games, it's a very like the way the screen formatting works. It's all over the place. And the game itself looks very much like, uh, it's just the strangest backdrops and and it's really I don't even know if you'd be able to tell if it's a PSP game or if it just looks like some dude has hand drawn it on their weekend off and just hand drawn all of these assets and you know backgrounds to these to each section of the city because yeah there's some crazy fonts on there that I don't think anyone's seen since about 1987 and then just some weird hand drawn kind of like they have the font if you had the font like a street sign and then it looks like it had the original font then someone's hand drawn over the top of it. It's so weird, but it's also really pretty charming. All the characters have American style names, very American. um, the lead character is I think he's 18. Of course they're all 18, and he's a cop. he's just finished detective school and he's coming back to his hometown to take up a job as a cop. But he's been allocated to a very special division of the cops, and they're called like SSS. I think it stands for Super Secret Squad. I can't remember. SSS. And they get requests and they have to fulfill these requests. But then as the game goes on, the wider story is revealed, and then you can start to see how it builds, it connects with other games in the series. So there's a bigger kind of a conspiracy plot, and there's you're kind of a city in between two other continents, and you can see how there's tension between all of them. And I think the broader plot for this one is going to be that you need to I don't know, take down the mafia. There's actually two mafia. There's two mafia groups from two different countries, and they're messing with you shit. And yeah, that's the wider plot. So, you know, you're a cop called Lloyd Bannings, and your mate's called Randy Orlando. Wandy keeps saying Wandy, because the whole game has the original Japanese voices, so that's fun. And yeah, you're in a little band of 4 cops and you're out there to save the world. So it's, but other than that, it's a pretty bog standard JRPG, but it's really odd and charming, with a pretty in-depth story. So it's been very charming and fun to play so far. A bit too much text for my liking, but you know, it's also not meant for kids either. It's not too sanitized. There's a bit of swearing in it. It's got a really it's really well translated, and I think the reason for that is that apparently this game had a fan translation some, I don't know, 6-7 years ago. And so Falcom, in their infinite wisdom, decided to take this fan translation and go, oh, well, you ripper, we don't have to pay for that now. And then made, put out an English release for the game. And then the Switch release came late last year, and I have some weird need to play these games on the Switch. I don't know why. I just have more fun playing them on the Switch. So I picked it up, and yeah, I don't know, I'm about halfway through the main story, and it's part of a trilogy. So who knows? I might bore your ears off when I pick up the other 2 and I'll play those. But it's big. It's a pretty big game, and I reckon I'll be smashing through it for the next 2 months at least, which is full on. So there you go. Legend of Heroes: Trails from Zero for the Switch, and the third part to that, which is Trails from Reverie, came out about 2 to 3 weeks ago in Australia. So, you know, you can always go check it out if you're into some weird JRPGs.
Yeah, I do like when I've seen you play it. It does that classic RPG thing where like when you talk to an NPC or a shopkeeper or something like that, they sort of walk in on the spot. I like, you know, you can go way back, and that's kind of like a thing that happens in Japanese RPGs, or they dance. I like when they like shopkeepers
Oh.
dance on the spot, and you just walk in, you go, "What are you doing? You're dancing." And they're like, "Hey, buy my stuff," and then you buy their stuff, and they're just dancing. It's I've never seen that
Yeah.
happen in real life, but I wish I did.
No. No. Yeah, every character walks on the spot, which I presume is something that was done to, I don't know, save
Just
memory or
no,
space or
no, no. It
something,
would use
or I don't
memory.
know.
It would use memory. It'd be there
Yeah, I
to
don't know
just
why.
animate, so they're not static. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
Hmm.
but it's so odd. And you know what? I haven't seen it in a long time, but yeah, this game has that. They're all walking on the spot when you walk up to them, except for you, of course,
You stand
because
still.
you stand still.
Mm.
But yeah, it's actually quite. It runs really nicely and is quite okay on the eyes, apart from the really really weird kind of art design that it has. But you know, it's kind of like, it's almost like steampunk, you know, crossed with some strange idealized version of like 1930s America. It's hard to describe. You just have to see it. But yeah, it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun if you like a bit of old school JRPG stuff. You know, it's all turn based and um, you know, um, not that challenging. You know, it's, you know, it has its moments. It has bosses are difficult. Outside of that, it's you pretty much just go do your fetch quests and then unlock the main story over chapters. So
The
yeah,
battle system's interesting. I think I've said it to you before. It reminds me of Grandia.
yeah,
Um, it's your placement on the battlefield has some effect, and you can see when your enemies are going to have their moves next, and so you can sort of choose your moves based on that, and it may delay their moves, or you know, you might get in early enough to kill them or whatever. But yeah, it definitely has that kind of feel to it. I do wonder if any of the people who work on that series, where did you say it was a Falcom game?
yeah.
Wow, Falcom is
Welcome.
they're doing their thing. They've been doing their thing for like 30, almost 40 years. God bless them. Doing the Lord's work out of like a basement or something. Yeah, so I hope some of those people who were probably people who used to work at was it Game Arts, I think, or something like that. I don't wonder if that company still exists.
Probably.
I've been playing only a little bit River City Girls 2, which is the sequel to River City Girls, which is a spin off. If you've ever played something like Double Dragon before, or Final Fight, or any of those games where you move left to right and just beat up dudes, it's just like real life, you know. You walk down the street and you beat up people you don't know. Well, at least in my part of town, it's real life. Footscray. Um, yeah. So it's a colourful pixel art side-scrolling beat 'em up. It's not just left to right. You also go up and down. It's like a whole city map kind of thing where you go through. I guess it's River City as two schoolgirls. Um, and it's quite witty. It's very tongue in cheek. Um, I'm enjoying it so far. The music is fantastic. The first game had
Mm,
exceptionally good music.
sure did.
And yeah, I'm just glad that they made another one. It's a spin-off of a series that's been going for 30 years or so. River City Ransom, or I don't know what its Japanese name is, but there've been all kinds of games from side-scrolling beat 'em ups to dodgeball games and volleyball and all kinds of things, whatever they could manage to put out. Probably the garage next to Falcom, you know. So I recommend that. What else? Between this and my last podcast, I finally achieved my goal at Donkey Kong. So I got my 1.2 million, which put me at number 5 in the world, which I'm very happy with. And I think that's the time to stop because obsessions are only healthy to a point. And I just finished playing through the first Mass Effect again on my Twitch channel. I play that game, the whole series, like maybe once a year or once every 2 years. It's one of my favorite games, like I mentioned on the last podcast. So that's what I've been up to.
Mm. Now I know we had a segment in the first show about latest news
Oh,
in the world of video games, and you've been getting deep in the weeds with uh, the FTC losing that case against Microsoft about this Activision buyout, and
yeah.
yeah,
We'll start with that. Yeah, so this may not be of interest to many people listening to this, if anyone is listening to this. But in the world of acquisitions and video games, it's the biggest thing that's ever happened. It's a $70 billion US purchase. That's a lot of money. It's more than the Australian government spends in a year. So Microsoft went and decided they wanted to purchase Activision. Activision had been going through some rough situations internally in regards to unionization and sexual harassment cases and all kinds of things, and their stock was down a bit. So they were looking for someone to come along and buy them, and Microsoft was looking to purchase someone. And obviously, they have some very big games. You've probably heard of Diablo or Call of Duty, Candy Crush. I hear that's big. I'm not into mobile games, but I hear it makes billions. So they're probably the largest third-party publisher in the world. and Microsoft obviously needs to put out more games, so they went to purchase them, and rightly so, every country in the world basically said, hang on, we'd like to investigate what this means because big mergers are always worrying, you know? That could lead to monopolies and stuff like that. And then, Microsoft's a very distant third in the video game world, you know? There's Sony, there's Nintendo, there's people playing on PCs, but there's Xbox, right? They have a much smaller market share than the other two. And Sony was like, "Oh no, you can't don't take the Activision from us. We'll never financially recover." Like what was his name? The Tiger King. I'll never financially recover from this. And so they, were petitioning governments around the world, don't do this, blah blah blah. And two of the governments came out and said, we don't want this to pass. And one of them was the UK, and one of them was America, the FTC. So the FTC basically took them to court and said, we don't want you to merge. We think it's anti-competitive. And Microsoft said, no worries, let's do this in court, because in America, everything can go to court, right? It's a legal decision of whether or not something's anti-competitive. And basically all the lawyers were saying, this is not anti-competitive. It's never going to win. It's never going to win. So, they went through all these things. They tried to offer remedies to break things up a little bit or make it, what do you want? And the FTC was like, we don't want anything. We just want to stop you from merging. They went to court, and the court judge said, this is not anti-competitive. This was a big case, and, big high-paid lawyers and arguing back and forth for months. And, the court found that wasn't anti-competitive. So then the FTC appealed. They appealed on the very last day that they were allowed to appeal, because they were concerned that Microsoft were going to merge anyway. Because they basically had, while the first court case was going on, they had, a brief window of time where they legally weren't able to merge, because, the court case was there to stop it. When they lost the court case, it meant Microsoft could merge. And so they waited a while, and then on the last day they had, before they thought Microsoft was going to close the deal, they appealed on a Friday afternoon at 5 o'clock, and they said that we need a judge to, hold up this appeal today. And the judges waited till Monday. Microsoft didn't close over the weekend, and then the judges got it on a Monday and said, no, this is stupid. You've just gone through a court case for this. You've added nothing of value to this appeal. Why should we grant it? So that was done. So that just leaves the UK now. The UK one, they also said they wouldn't make a deal. They made a lot of accommodations for the European Union. The European Union said they wanted a long laundry list of behavioural remediations, and Microsoft agreed to them. And that was enough for every other country in the world to say no problems, everything's good. But the UK wants to shoot itself in the foot. And so they've said no, and they don't have to go to court to uphold that. They're not bound by, they have not final to say. There is a tribunal court, like an internal tribunal court, that they did go to. And it was looking like they were going to lose the tribunal court, because they were claiming they didn't have enough time or resources or money to represent themselves. And Microsoft had too much money to represent themselves. So it was looking like they were going to lose. And after the FTC lost their case, there must have been some discussions on the side. And both the UK CMA, that's the organisation that was blocking it, and Microsoft agreed to walk away from the tribunal and to try and sort out their differences together. I'm not sure. The only reason I could see that is particularly because the UK body thought they were going to lose. So better to renegotiate and look like you got something rather than get nothing. The tribunal court did say to them, look, we've already started tribunal proceeds. Don't go away and do this if you're not honest about wanting to actually find a solution. So, but they're under no obligation to find a solution. I hope it does go through, because as a consumer, I like cheaper games. I like more competition. But your mileage may vary. They agreed, we will not take Call of Duty away from PlayStation. We'll put it on the Switch. We'll put it on everything, they said, for the next 10 years at least. So, that was one thing. The other thing that happened between now and last podcast is Pikmin 4 came out around the world. But in Japan, in the very first week, it outsold Final Fantasy 16 that had been out for 1 month. So, if you'd told me 10, 15 years ago that a Pikmin would outsell Final Fantasy in Japan in one day over at 1 month, I would have said you were a crazy person. So it's really interesting to see. I don't think it's obviously an endorsement of Pikmin doing well. I think it's more of an endorsement of Final Fantasy losing its luster in Japan potentially, and the changing tastes of Japanese gamers. That's a series that used to come out and they'd sell 1 million copies on one day, and they made laws to release those games on weekends because it was causing people to not rock up for work. It's just mind-blowing that tastes have changed so much, and I think the game's great. So
yeah, and it's funny because Pikmin's supposed to be a great game, but I've never been bothered to pick it up.
Well, that's on you.
It is on me. I'm sure it's great. I mean, I don't know. It probably doesn't have the charisma of having. It's probably Miyamoto saying, you don't need a Mario. You don't need a character that, you spend all this time developing and investing in and, making like a mascot for your company or whatever and inventing all this detailed backstory. It's dude, little aliens, lemmings-like tasks. Suck it up. You're fine. You don't need story.
It's a strategy game. You don't. Yeah, you don't.
Which you probably don't, which is fine. But every time I see Miyamoto flogging the shit out of Pikmin, the more I see him do that, the less I want to play it.
Well, I feel like you get a vanity project, right? It's like a director in Hollywood, right? Now,
is it like Michael Flatley making his movie
absolutely,
about
which we must watch.
James Bond.
Yeah, if you're not aware what we're talking about, Michael Flatley, the Lord of the Dance, the man who had his legs insured for how many millions were they insured?
$52 million.
Yeah, his legs were insured for like $52 million. He, he wanted to branch out. He had a lot of money, and he said, you know what, I really like James Bond kind of movies. What if I was James Bond? What if I just put all these millions of dollars into producing a Hollywood movie called Blackbird, in which I am some dapper older gentlemanly spy and women that are in their 20s just drape themselves from me? And what if I could have any villain or any character play a villain? Any actor play a villain? I would get Eric Roberts, and I'm with him there. I would get Eric Roberts to play my villains too.
Sure.
Yeah,
he hand chose Eric Roberts. Of course he did.
Well, I think he hand chose everything in that movie, to be quite fair. I don't think anyone said, no, Michael, that's a bad idea. It's a bit George Lucas,
Yeah.
I forgot where we were going with this. Pikmin.
I could remember the name of that movie.
Which one?
I can't. The Michael Flatley
It's called Blackbird.
movie. Blackbird. That's it. Yeah. Anyway, check it out. Watch it and tell us.
Yeah, watch it so we don't have to, and let us know. I would enjoy
Pikmin
watching.
is like the Blackbird of
it's
Nintendo.
a vanity project where Miyamoto's gone, hey, do you like that Zelda that I made? Do you like that Mario that I made?
Well, fuck you.
Yeah. How about all those games I've helped you put out over the last, 40... What about that Donkey Kong, And he's like, now it's my time to shine. I want to clean things up in the garden. I want to, move lemmings-like characters around the garden. And they're just like...
Yeah.
Just let him.
But Miyamoto said no one likes gardening. He's like, do it.
In Japan, that's not how it works. The boss is always right. They're like, yes, this will be the one. And now he's probably sitting there going, look, Look, who was right all
Who
along?
was right all along, huh? I am God.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, I cut him some slack. But
Yeah.
interesting news, like just to see the contrast between the two things that, you know, used to be
Do
so
you think we
different.
should have a Miyamoto day? Like maybe we'll record this podcast and we'll both rock up in black blazers with like just a plain white t-shirt with like whatever game Nintendo's shilling right now.
Yeah. Um,
That's a cosplay as Miyamoto.
mm, well, that's an idea. We'll take that one offline, and we'll think that one through. How about we have a day where I cosplay as Eric Roberts? That would be good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I think you need to imbibe certain
Yeah, I'd have to get stoned.
substances. Yeah.
Um,
To successfully cosplay as that man. Yes.
yeah, to reach the same highs and
Hmm.
same lows.
Yes. Yes,
So
indeed.
I think we talked about our favorite games last episode, right? What I thought we could talk about this time is our favorite portable consoles. We'll talk about our favorite consoles at some point, and they may be portable too. But portables a thing I've been spending a little bit more time with lately. Um, and yeah, I just was curious. What's your favorite portable of all time?
Well, I love portable consoles, and I'm very sad that there aren't any portable consoles the way I like them right now.
Well, Tiger Electronics. Uh,
I loved those. I thought they were good. I don't know
Ninja
why they
Turtle
get
one
such
was
a bad
good.
rap. Oh yeah, that Ninja Turtle one, I loved it. I absolutely loved Game and Watches when I was a kid. I absolutely loved them, and maybe one day we'll take some footage of our little Game and Watch display out there, which is, it's not that big, but some of those we've both had for years and years, and I always loved Game and Watches. And I had a Donkey Kong Game and Watch that I bought new, um, that I sucked up and conned my old man to buy me when I was like 13 or something, and I played the shit out of it. So I've always loved portable gaming, um, but the 3DS, I've really enjoyed. I really did enjoy till recently, till they shut it down. Um, I think the reason I like the 3DS is that it took a little while to get going, and the main conceit was that it was a DS in 3D, but it didn't take long, which I think we could have all predicted. It didn't take long where people were turning off the 3D and just using it as a regular old console, to the point where they then, of course, created the 2DS because they realized that no one wanted to fuck their eyeballs all the time, because I certainly suffered from some motion sickness and I didn't enjoy the 3D aspect. It was very, very clever, and they did improve it over time. They did a software upgrade at some point, I don't know, 3 years into its life, and that significantly improved the 3D experience, but you just don't want that. It was a gimmick. It was a noughties, mid noughties thing that, that went and died, even though James Cameron doesn't think so. But, it was the console version of the 3D fad. But the games that came out on the 3DS were so consistently excellent that we have quite a few 3DS games here. And you just look at them and you think, wow, they really did put out a lot of awesome games. Of course, I bought a hell of a lot of JRPGs, and some of those are now worth very big money, which blows my mind. But it was just a good console. It was a double screener, which I always love, and the big Nintendo conceit they pushed on you this time around, which is what they always do, was a stylus. But they made it work really, really well. And if you're playing JRPGs, having two screens and a map on one and the action on the other, and then a stylus to help you map is, or navigate through things, is bloody genius. It's fantastic. So wasn't too heavy. It was well designed. They made a couple of design fixes for later 3DSs, which was really good. They somehow did a port of Xenoblade Chronicles for it. Don't ask me how, but they did. Yeah, so it was just really, really fun, and maybe it also coincided with me becoming a bit of a self-sustaining adult and being able to afford to buy a game when it came out, whenever it suited me. So every time some small game came out, I jumped on it. But yeah, I loved it, and I still do, and I still pick it up here and there. I've got a SNES. I've got a SNES 3DS, which I do not have here to show you, but it looks like a SNES, and I like it. Cool gimmick. Um, yeah, so that's if you like JRPGs, a 3DS, it's hard to go wrong.
So yeah, so what are your favourite games on the 3DS? If you had to name
Yeah.
three, just pick three at random. I don't know. That
Oh,
that means
the
something
fun
to you.
part is when we recorded this the first time, I was clever enough to go and
You
get
had them
them
on
out of my
hand.
bookshelf.
Yes.
This time, not so much. Uh, but oh gee, I picked a couple at random last time that were just good examples of interesting games that were on there. I picked Cold Sept Revolt, which definitely wins this week's winner for most bizarre title for a game. Cold Sept Revolt, and it's a Monopoly game. It's a Monopoly knockoff, but with cards and you know people, not Monopoly characters, but it's yeah, it's a board game for the 3DS, but with RPG elements, lots of fun. I got really hooked on that. And I got hooked on a few puzzle games for the 3DS as well. So P-Cross 3D, I definitely gave that a good whack. That game is a particularly good game. Like if you're sick and you've got hours to kill, you'll just sit there navigating these 3D puzzles, um, which is fun. Picross has been around on Nintendo for a while, but definitely there's plenty of RPGs to enjoy. I enjoyed, the Etrian Odyssey series that they released on the DS, and then it moved into the 3DS. There was Persona Q. I had lots of fun with that. It was insanely hard, but it was really, really worth it. And Fire Emblem Awakening is a really good 3DS game. It's just a good game across the board. I'd suggest to anyone to pick up Fire Emblem Awakening. It's kind of ironic because Awakening is what it did for me, because I'd played Fire Emblem before then, and it hadn't quite stuck with me. But when I played Awakening, that was it. I was hooked on Fire Emblem. So, yeah. What's
Cool.
your favorite console?
Well, I don't have
Or
to think about it too hard this time because I thought about it hard the last time. It's very similar to yours. It's the DS, the standard without the 3D DS. It was a console that just had so many different genres, and I played a whole bunch of genres that I didn't think I would because of it. So, like Elite Beat Agents, where
that
you
was cool.
basically tap the screen in time or drag the stylus around in time with the music, and it tells cool little stories where these guys, like Men in Black kind of guys, get deployed around the world to right the wrongs that right what once went wrong, or whatever they say in Quantum Leap. So there was games like that. There were games like Phoenix Wright, which were kind of visual novels, interactive visual novels. Hotel Dusk, and just there was three fantastic Castlevania games on the DS, and I am a sucker for Metroidvanias, and I will play them until I die, as long as they're good. If anyone wants to try one and see what a modern one is like, go grab Hollow Knight for whatever system you own and play that. It's really good, and it was made in Australia by like 3 people. Um, so the DS was, it was an ugly duckling of a console. The first model, anyway. I don't know if you remember. It was a clamshell uh, one, and it was silver, and it was bulky, and not the best looking
Mm.
console. Then they put out a light, which was much nicer, much more refined, and then they started getting people like Nicole Kidman to try and spruik them in ads. That didn't help. But
Oh dear.
but the idea was that they wanted to sell it to a wider audience, and maybe the people who read Woman's Weekly or something. I don't know. Is that still a thing, Woman's Weekly?
I think so.
They put it out weekly. There's enough content to
No,
write.
They haven't put it out weekly for like 40 years.
Why they call it the Women's Weekly then?
The
You read it
Australian
every week?
Women's Weekly Monthly.
No, that's not what it's called. Don't try and fool me. It can't be called that.
No.
Anyways, that's my favorite console. I want to just shout out a special mention for the Vita, the console that could have been. Like holding it in your hand, it was a premium product. It had a nice OLED screen. It had the buttons were great on it, right? So often a console will have terrible buttons, and that's a make or break thing for me. The Vita was so good. It's a shame there was only one good game for it, which was Persona 4 Golden. But that justified buying the console for me. So.
Well, I played Final Fantasy X.
Oh
on
yeah,
the
that's
Vita.
right. They remade that for that, didn't they? Yeah,
Nice
remastered
thought.
it.
Yeah, yeah. And 10-2. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't talk about that piece of trash, but that's okay.
Oh, see, I loved it at the time, and then when I replayed it, I went, "Oh, I was wrong.
Yeah, you were
I was
wrong.
wrong." I think it's the music. The music is actually really good in 10-2, but the rest is not.
Okay,
Nah,
I take
I
your
was
word
just
for it.
saying-
I tried.
Well, I know. Obviously, it was designed for boys. Sexy Una.
I thought it was designed for girls. It was like the whole Charlie's Angel kind of own your own, thing. Kick-ass girls.
Yeah, but I think the idea of kick-ass girls does not appeal to girls. I think that appeals to men.
Well, that one did not appeal to me.
But in the end, it did not. But
That's
yes,
okay.
Sexy Una.
Yeah, Una was sexy in the first.
Una.
Una was sexy in the first Final Fantasy X.
She was not sexy in the first one. I mean, she wasn't wearing a dress made out of belts, but
That's true. Lulu did wear a dress made of. Now that you
she
mention
made
it,
a dress dress made of belts. Yeah. And that's another segment for another day.
Yeah.
Weirdest JRPG costumes.
How many
Lulu.
belts can you have on your costume?
Yet somehow you cannot see through the costume.
Yeah, it's like at one point he went, I really just want to put as many belts as I can, and then he just had this epiphany. It was like, what if the costume was belts? And he's
Yeah.
like, I've done it. My career is peaked. I'm done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's a good game. Final Fantasy X, I think, is a fantastic game.
I still love it.
Yeah, it's
I've
good.
played it a good 5 times.
I got a
all the
little
way
bit
through.
sad at the end. Don't tell anyone.
Look, Xanarkand will make people cry.
Mm.
Yeah, and the end.
Yeah. And anyways. Where were we? Okay, consoles. We talked about our favorite portable consoles. So does that mean
Yeah.
we're due for the segment we all love, which is what came in the mail from China?
I'll do a little song for you. What came in the mail from China? What came in the mail from China today?
Wow, that was something.
don't know.
Thank you,
It is
thank you.
segment
That
song.
was beautiful. It touched me right here, in the
Yeah,
cockles
yeah.
of my heart. Anyways,
So what did you get in the mail?
I didn't
from
get
China,
anything
but
in the
not
mail.
from China.
I didn't get anything. I did a back alley deal of the most literal sense. So, I am a big fan of portable gaming, as we have discussed, and over the years I have purchased a range of Chinese products that have come in the mail from China, such as this one here, which is a Retroid 3 something, Retro Pocket 3 Plus or something. Nice little console, not the best on your hands, but if you want to play some old retro games, it's not too bad. It's an Android device, but I wanted something a little bit more robust. I wanted something with a little bit more power, and I thought, how good would it be to own a Steam Deck? And then I realized you can't own a Steam Deck in Australia because, I don't know, they hate Australia. Probably goes back to that court case they lost a few years ago about warranties and refunds and stuff like that. Apparently Australian consumer law, pretty good. So I wanted a Steam Deck, and I saw one for sale at about half price. And I was like, wow, this is a deal too good to let go. And I was like, I'm going to get murdered because I'm going to have to take hundreds and hundreds of dollars worth of cash in my pocket to some back alley in South Melbourne and meet some person I don't know to buy a Steam Deck. And, you know, sometimes you got to live life on the edge. You got to be a little bit brave. And I thought, well, what's my life worth? What's my life worth, really? It's at least worth a Steam Deck, right? So I messaged the guy. I said, look, I'm going to come. I'm going to buy your Steam Deck. Can you please not murder me? I literally said that to him. I said, can you please not murder me? If you're going to steal my money, but don't murder me. And he said, I won't murder you. Please don't murder me. I said, deal. All right. Got the money out. It's hard to get to an ATM nowadays. There used to be ATMs everywhere, but now they've all been outsourced to dodgy companies that want like 3.5% of my transaction. So I got the money out and I drove out to South Melbourne during a lunch break. And, well, here it is. Here it is.
There it is.
Oh, there is I. There is you.
Oh.
Inception. It is pretty good. I got to admit, I'm very impressed at the efforts Valve have gone to and succeeded at in making it very user friendly. So you can play Steam games on there. You can install Windows if you want, which I did on a separate SD card, and you can play, you know, Xbox games and stuff like that. It's really good. I think if I'd paid full price for it, I would be like, I'm an early adopter. But because I didn't, I'm happy. This one does have a fault that came in after playing it for a little bit, but it's not the end of the world. I heard it's a common manufacturing fault, and it's actually with one of the buttons, but I just remapped the button to one of the paddles at the back, and yeah, it's not ideal, but you know, I can't get warranty on it in Australia because there's no Steam Decks in Australia. But great little console. There is something coming in the mail from China this week.
Oh, it's
There is. I bought 2 USB Wi-Fi 6 / Bluetooth adapters for $30. So just be aware, my love, that there is a parcel coming from China.
you heard it here first, and so did I.
Yes, well,
Welcome to my life. This is why the segment is called "What Came in the Mail from China," because we find out when it arrives. Well, I find out when it arrives.
Yeah, so be ready for next week's update or next update where I show you some USB dongles. It's going to be exciting.
Oh, fantastic.
So
Fantastic.
that's what came this time.
Yes, very good. Now, I think we had a couple of last fun things to touch on before we finish up for our second podcast. We'll call it 2.5. Podcast 2.5.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, Attack of the Clones.
2.743821 something. Like make Yoko Taro proud. Yes.
Yes, that's right. Now, I thought we'd mention just something that's a bit fun that we have as a bit of a joke between us, and that is that Matt is completely obsessed with when we're in public places and people can't get their advertising screens to work because they're usually run by some small pissy PC somewhere in their store. And they'll have a monitor with an ad on it or something. And the amount of times when we'll be in public and they will be malfunctioning. And for some reason, Matt gets a real kick out of it. So
it brings me joy. It brings me joy to see like things fall apart. All right. Some people just want to see the world burn. And when it comes to IT, I want to see the world burn. And, you know, if I'm walking through a shopping mall and there's a big, 150-inch display, and it says something like, press the any key to continue, or, fatal error, blah, 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 and then a really sad face, I'll laugh. Or if it has just the desktop on it and it has a thing on the desktop called, like really cool image or something like that. I'm a big fan. I'll throw a couple.
Windows.
Yeah. So I'll throw a couple of these examples up. They do make me happy. They do.
Yeah.
What makes you happy? There's simple things in life make people happy.
Yeah, look, that is true. That is true. We'll show you the last one that I think was from this week, which was at the greengrocer while I was buying up all of our veggies for the week, and we had our usual fatal error up on a screen, which was fun. So yeah, if you've got any you'd like to share.
I just want to share. I want to share something I got at work this week. I got an email that said this system has detected the following error. There is no error, and I went because I saw the system has detected this error, and I went, oh, I better read this. This is important. Something has gone wrong, and then it said there is no error, and I went back to the people who wrote that thing, and I said this is stupid. Either don't send something if there's no errors, or say there are no errors in the subject line, so I don't open it up and read it. It's like an error message I got a while back that said something like, what was it? It said, fatal error, failed successfully. And I'm like, how do you fail successfully? I don't understand. What does failed successfully mean? But things like that bring me joy.
Oh, that is good. That is good. And of course, we can't forget our soundbite of the day. We had a lot of fun farming up a few sound bites last time, and we thought we'd mention a few other favourites that that kind of popped into our head over the last week, or now week and a half. Well, for starters, I mentioned that I've been playing Trails from Zero, and it has the Japanese voiceover, like voice soundtrack. And the Japanese voice actors, I feel like I've heard them from every corner of Japan. They're very, very vanilla. But of course, you've got to have battle patter. So while they're, battling, they're shouting things, or they're saying how much they want to try their best. So there's lots of "Usha," lots and lots of that. Because apparently in the US, because these people really are supposed to be American. Their name's like Randy Orlando. So he's supposed to be American. But, it's very American to shout, "Yosha!" And there's some other things that they say a lot. But, yeah, and I'm pretty sure the girls, like in all RPGs, are busy telling us that all they want to do is just contribute.
They just want to do their best, honey.
I just want to do my best. Are you doing your best?
I hope I'm not
Because
getting
I'm
in the
doing my
way.
best. Oh, I hope I'm not getting in the way. You're trying very hard. Yes, that kind of thing. So, but it's in Japanese, so it's not annoying me so much.
But I think
Lots of yosha.
it's a common thing in Japanese games for people to yell their moves, right? You'll be walking through the forest, and then some big monster will appear, and then the next thing you hear is like, I don't know, dual edge, or something strike. And it's like,
Yes.
why do you keep yelling at your... Do you reckon in World War II, people like bayoneting each other, and they're like, bayonets? I don't know. It's
I don't know. They're doing
that's the
Street
wrong
Fighter.
war. That's the wrong war, isn't it? They weren't using bayonets in World War II, I'm sure. Surely not.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Probably. Who knows?
Yeah, but in Street Fighter, that's the announcer. Oh, you mean whether they go like Sonic Boom?
Yes.
If I could
right.
throw magic sonic booms out of my hand, I would want everyone to know about it. Let me tell you.
Say it too.
Yeah. You'd be practicing that shit in front of like the mirror. You'd be like, do I call it the sonic? Do I call it the wind flurry? Like, what works? You'd be spending time thinking about it.
Magical fart. Oh.
and
Sonic boom.
Magical fart sounds like the kind of attack that would have come from like a Tengen fighting game, or maybe even IREM in the late days of
IREM. IREM.
Yeah.
IREM would call their game that.
Nah,
Magical Fart Series 7.
If anyone out there from IREM is watching, I'd really like a new Karnov. Is that IREM? I don't know. If it's not, I don't care. I still want you to make another Karnov, please.
Yes.
Yeah, but I think we talked about also games that just had... Because, some games have poor translations. Or it's not even poor some games... Because a lot of them aren't made in English-speaking countries, sometimes they have poor voice acting. Or they used to have poor voice acting. It's a lot better nowadays, right? It's a lot better. Like, I think Final Fantasy 16, they actually did it in English first. and then they translated it to Japanese.
Wow.
Which is very different than how it used to be. We used to have to wait like a year and a half to get a Final Fantasy game because they had to go through whatever translation things that they had to do. But there's just something to be said for a good translation. Where the voice actors sound good, where the script doesn't sound ridiculous. But every now and then there's little flourishes that I am very fond of. Like in Final Fantasy 12, they were talking about manufactured nethicite. And every time Balthier spoke about manufactured nethicite, I was like, yes, I wish I could say this every day at work. I would say to them, where is my manufactured nethicite? I love a good little bit of make-believe.
Yeah. Well, Star Trek has made a
Technobabble?
50-year career off having things that sound like chemical elements or whatever, and they'll just make it up. We love it. Manufactured nethicite is fab. Yeah, it's just the way to say it. It's such a sexy accent. Manufactured nethicite, almost like Sean Connery.
Oh man. Now I'm getting excited just thinking about it.
Yes, there's some good sound bites
right there. We definitely put some sound bites in there of those things, and I think maybe one week we've got to put some sound bites in of some bad voiceovers.
Yes,
yeah.
There's plenty. Star Ocean.
Star Ocean. There's a lot wrong with that.
Number one worst.
Like the first Resident Evil had terrible voice acting.
It's
like,
very true.
When they would just find someone who could speak English in Japan and they would just sit them in a booth and they wouldn't give them any context for what they're doing and it would just sound completely inappropriate for the situation at hand.
Mm-hmm.
Those were good days.
Deadly Premonition, the entire game.
No. I will. This podcast is going for another 30 minutes. I'm settling it. All right. Do not listen to this woman's lies. All right. Deadly Premonition. If you've never played it, you got to go in with the right mindset. All right. You go into the right mindset. This game had no budget, but it had heart. It had vision. The man was an auteur. And the voice acting for the main character is fantastic. And actually most of the voice acting is fine. It's the mixing that is the problem. The fact that at one moment the guy will be talking at a normal voice and then it'll be quiet. And then the other character will talk back at a different. Deadly Premonition.
We get the point.
No, you don't.
I think so. Look,
once in a life. No. Once in a lifetime, something comes along. It's like The Room. You've seen The Room? Deadly Premonition is the game version of The Room, and it is perfect.
We get it.
I'll shut up.
We get it.
All right, she wants me to shut up.
Look, I think we'll do a special on Deadly Premonition because we could cover all of the segments we've covered today just about from a Deadly Premonition context.
It's so good.
Yeah. But, if you have any sound bites you'd like to offer up, please do our work for us. And we'll put our email address on the screen now. Or if you are listening on podcast, audio only, that would be the Forever Grind podcast, one word, @gmail.com. So if you've got any sound bites that tickle your fancy, email them through to us, and like we said, do our work for us.
Yeah, we would just love to get any kind of feedback. If you want us to talk about a particular subject or review a game even that you love, I would sit down and I would play any game that you put forward and give you my opinion on, because I'm always open for a suggestion or two. So.
Oh, look, he'd probably stream it. So
I would.
There you go. There's a hook. Send him some suggestions. Probably stream it.
Send me a terrible game and I will stream it and you can watch my pain and misery.
So if you want to watch the man himself stream, That's coming up on the screen now. You can, as we mentioned at the beginning, you can catch Matt on Twitch, streaming a lot. Less Donkey Kong now, but
More variety.
more variety.
The
more
same Matt you love, but in something variety more.
yes, yes, that's right. So yes, and I might stream on Twitch too. But you're always welcome to follow me on Instagram at Pond Institute, and you can catch Matt on Twitch. He is Lyrial, and at Instagram is at Matt-Techio. So underscore. Sorry.
It's a dash, but it's a little bit lower.
It's a low ball dash.
It's the difference between a backslash and a forward slash, and it's important to know.
Yeah, that's true. I bailed you up on that last week, so that's fair. Anyway, yeah, thanks for tuning in for podcast 2.5, and yeah, hopefully we'll see you for number 3. So stay tuned for that. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks for watching. Bye for now.
Bye for now.
See ya.